Imagine this. It's early Friday afternoon on the first day of an in-person fighting game tournament. You walk into the ballroom towards the consoles, and as you inch closer, you hear it. The sweet clacking of plastic on plastic. The rhythmic sounds of fighting gamers slapping the ever-loving mess out of their jumbo-sized controllers. You close your eyes, take a deep breath to relish in the moment of a world where there's in-person fighting games again, and then almost vomit because someone forgot to wash their ass. But after you stop dry heaving, you open your eyes and you're in your house, facing 3 noise complaints, howling dogs, and screaming neighbors because you fell asleep practicing lightning loops at 2 a.m. again. And for the last few years, that's kind of what fighting games have been like for me. There's nothing quite like the thrill of one-on-one competition on a platform with as much technical and mechanical depth as these games provide, but I don't think that I can play them past 6:30 p.m. without feeling like public enemy number 1 at my HOA. Now, I know a lot of folks do enjoy the rhythmic sounds of fight stick ASMR, and I do too, but just like making music, there's always going to be a gigantic difference between what you're hearing and how everyone else hears it. Because of that, I can't help but feel somewhat self-conscious about whether or not my favorite hobby is driving my fiancé up a wall. She swears up and down that it doesn't, but she also says that she loves me, so I don't know what to believe. And I would play on gamepad if little 2009 me didn't decide that playing on and getting used to an arcade stick was the only way to play fighting games. Thankfully, there are products out there that'll dampen the sound of your mashing buttons. You got the Quanba Gravities and the Sanwa OBS-FEs, but I'm cheap, lazy, and want instant satisfaction, so let me show you how to shut your fight stick the hell up for like $1. First, head on over to your local craft store, then break that store's recording policy by whipping out your phone and taking a video of you entering the aisle where there's, drumroll please, foam, you guys! This stuff is like $1 per sheet. You'll maybe only need 1, but I ended up getting 3. This blue one, this green one, and this rainbow one that's like 50 cents more than the other sheets that I got. I guess that's why they call it rainbow capitalism. Anyway, once you're back from your foam adventure and you've yelled at least 4 different cars about your newly acquired foam, you'll need the following items. A screwdriver, something to cut the foam with, a mechanical pencil or a thin screwdriver, and the fight stick you'll be modding. Detach the wires that are running to the buttons, push the button tabs in, and then push them out of the stick. Grab one of the buttons and find this little tab on the side. Use your mechanical pencil or whatever and push that tab in and up. Then take the part with the switch in it and push that into the foam so you end up with this nice little circle. Cut that out of the foam and then repeat. Once that's done, cut a spot in the middle of the foam discs and then throw those bad boys in the buttons. Reassemble, rewire, and if you have any foam left over, put it inside of the stick itself so you give the sound less room to bounce around in. Now, that's the basics, and this works really well, but in the fight against noise, I have a secret weapon. I went ahead and picked up a silent arcade stick from Paradise Arcade Shop. It was like $70 including shipping, which I'm just now realizing defeats the whole purpose of doing this on a budget, but I'll be damned if I wasn't blown away with how well this thing performs. So now that we have the ultimate sound-dampening arcade stick, it's time to find out just how much quieter it makes playing fighting games. Now, before you go any further, I gotta warn you, if you're a data scientist or you care about experiments that make any kind of sense, I recommend turning off the video now or posting this in the comments below. Go ahead, I'll give you a second to get that done. Okay, so for the tests, I pointed a mic at my stick and then set up an ambient mic around 50 feet away in the living room in a similar situation to where I'd find my fiancé, wrapped up in blankets with the cat and a bottle of wine watching the hit HBO television show 6 Feet Under. I then returned to my room, booted up Street Fighter V, where I would play 2 different fight stick configurations. 1, my entirely stock parts, and 2, the other with my all-silent parts. I'll then play the first 5 of G's trials in 3 ways. 1, a very quiet, mousy baby that hates violence against buttons. 2, my normal fighting game playing self. And 3, the most obnoxious stick pounder you've ever seen. I'll take the audio, average out the peaks that I can see in the waveform, and then that'll determine how effective this whole idea is. Did I do multiple tests to eliminate variance? Nope. Did I do anything about those cars that go by in the background? No to that too. Do I care? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Anyway, after I crunched the numbers, and believe you me, there were a lot of them to crunch, here's what the results look like. Keep in mind that because digital audio is apparently measured in negative decibels, the higher the number, the better. And across the board, we see that the sound dampened stick always performed significantly quieter than the one without the foam inserts and silent lever. But that's not the only interesting data in this chart. For example, if you're gonna beat your stick like it owes you money, you might wanna skip doing all of this in the first place, since either way you're gonna be making enough noise to wake the neighbors. On the other end of the spectrum, if you play fighting games like the hit 1990s board game Don't Wake Daddy, quieting down your stick is a really good investment. Some of the data here is actually a little wonky, since there were occasions where the button strikes didn't even break the noise gate on my microphone. But it's the middle ground where I could really tell that this is all a thing that actually does work if you're worried about making too much noise while you lose at the fighting games that you feel like you should be much better at. A 7 to 14 decibel difference is significant. I mean, just take a listen to what that sounds like in the context of this data. I mean, yeah, it's not like you're not making noise, but it's a real difference in not only the volume of the sounds that you're making, but also the sharpness of the noise itself. And one last thing, even though there is now a little bit of foam in my buttons, they still performed just fine in my tests. I was able to plink, double tap, and do stuff like mash specials without much issue. For a lot of fighting game players who play on stick, and Smash players who insist on calling controller sounds popcorn, noise is just gonna be a fact of life, but hopefully with just a little ingenuity, you can finally make life a little more bearable for yourself and others while you get around to enjoying your favorite hobby, guilt-free. Right after you finish those challenges in Halo. And oh, yeah, you still need to finish The Witcher. Oh, but not right before you finish the last few chambers of Portal. And you also need to get back to beating your high score in Streets of Rage 4. Oh, and don't forget Inscription, that game's really good. You stopped on like the third part. You also bought Deathloop like 3 months ago and never touched it, so